First things first, what are decentralized exchanges? Well, decentralized exchanges are dApps that allow users to buy and sell crypto using smart contracts. They don't have some sort of central authority that's managing and touching all these funds, and it's completely decentralized where we're just interacting with the smart contracts or the code itself. Now, each blockchain has their own top DEX with the most amount of liquidity, and this liquidity is provided by users such as myself, as well as you potentially in the future. And just to give some examples, Uniswap is the largest and most trusted DEX. They're mostly on EVM chains. And then you have other blockchains such as Binance Smart Chain, where PancakeSwap is the biggest DEX. So a lot of times a quick Google search will give you the answer of which DEX has the most liquidity. Another thing to note is unlike a centralized exchange, decentralized exchanges need liquidity providers in order for these different trades between token pairs to happen. So a lot of times these pairs will end up being the blockchain's main gas token, such as Ethereum, and then it'll be with whatever token you want to buy. So let's say Shiba Inu. Most of the time, this is going to be the case, and that's where the most amount of liquidity is going to be. Just to give another example, if a meme coin is on Binance Smart Chain, then BNB, which is the gas token for Binance Smart Chain, is most likely going to be the main liquidity pairing for that other meme coin that you're trying to buy. Now, I want to break down what exactly LP is, like these liquidity pool tokens. Now, DEXs require users to provide liquidity for the trades, unlike CEXs, which handle all the transactions themselves. And typically, a decentralized exchange will have a list of all the different trading pairs, and you can add LP, otherwise known as liquidity, into the exchange. And a lot of times you can do this in order to earn an LP fee as well as the farming yield. Generally, these different pairs of liquidity are 50-50 in terms of USD value. So for example, if I have $1,000 worth of Ethereum, I would have to pair $1,000 worth of Shiba Inu tokens. That then turns into the LP token, and that is the liquidity that people can now buy and sell and trade. Sometimes you'll see different splits where it's 80% of one token and 20% of the other, but oftentimes it's going to be a 50-50 USD value. Now, the reason that you might want to provide liquidity is all these different liquidity pools have an LP fee. The standard fee is 0.3%, but sometimes it can be a lot higher, such as 1 or 2%. And then this fee is split between people that are providing liquidity, proportionate to how much liquidity you're providing and the amount of volume and the amount of fees that are going on that pool. And then a lot of times the decentralized exchange will also take a small percentage. Now, to incentivize people to actually provide this liquidity, a lot of times the decentralized exchange, not including Uniswap actually, but a lot of times they'll give their own token in order to give an additional incentive. And this is what we call yield farming. Now, these tokens generally do pretty bad over time because they're constantly going out to everyone that's providing liquidity. And a lot of times these people are just selling their token. And to further this, the amount of demand or the amount of the utility of that DEX token is oftentimes not that sustainable. So even though you might get a decent APR in the beginning between the LP fee and the token emissions, just realize, especially for new DEXs, that that token just consistently goes down in value. The last point that you have to understand about LP is that the more liquidity, the less price impact or volatility. So if something has $5 million worth of liquidity, then your $10,000 buy is not actually going to impact the price. But if something only has $40,000 worth of liquidity, then if you did a $10,000 buy, you might move that price by 20%, 25%, something like that. So just realize that the price impact is how much the price is changing based on a buy or sale, and the price impact is lower with the more amount of liquidity being provided. The last thing that I wanted to mention before showing you guys some of this is impermanent loss plus hacking risk. Providing LP combines your two tokens into one LP token, which then can be deposited into a liquidity pool in order to earn a yield. Now, what's interesting is, remember, you're taking $1,000 worth of Ethereum and $1,000 worth of Shiba Inu. If one token outperforms the other, when you pull out that liquidity, when you separate those two tokens again, you will not get the same amount of each token back. You'll still get the same dollar value back, but let's say I had 100 Shiba Inu tokens and I had 100 Ethereum tokens. If Shiba Inu went on a massive run and Ethereum stayed at the same price, when I pull back that liquidity, I'm still getting 50% Ethereum and 50% Shiba Inu. So now all of a sudden, instead of me getting 100 Shiba Inu tokens and 100 Ethereum tokens, now I might be getting something like 80 Shiba Inu tokens and 120 Ethereum tokens. So this is what is called impermanent loss. And it isn't necessarily that you lost money, but it means that you were simply better off holding the token that outperformed the pair. If the impermanent loss outweighs the yield on the pool, which is the APR you get for providing the liquidity, and oftentimes that's the farming emissions and the LP fee combined, then you kind of took in an L and you would have been better off just holding Shiba Inu in this example. But let's say they stayed around the same price, or there was a very little bit of price difference over the period of time you were providing liquidity, then there's a chance that this LP fee or the yield that you were getting for providing outweighs that impermanent loss. Another thing that you have to note is because these DEXs are using smart contracts, there's always a chance of some sort of hack and exploit. And I've seen in the past, just recently, even on Alex Labs on Bitcoin, that these LP pools can get drained and you can lose all of your money. And that's why a lot of people provide to something like Uniswap that has shown long-term security. Now that you guys understand the basics of decentralized exchanges, let me actually walk you through one. This is Uniswap, the largest decentralized exchange in crypto, and you can actually change what chain you're on at the top right corner. They pretty much have every chain, and this is probably what you're going to be using the most if you use some sort of DEX. Now on this right side, you can actually sort by the pools, and you can see all of the different TVL that's in each of these different projects. Now you'll notice that some of these don't have a lot of volume and they're kind of scammy, like this first one up here, even though it might show that the TVL is high, but in reality, that is a scam, and that's why you have to be very careful. But the real legit one is most likely DAI and Maker, and this has $146 million worth of TVL, or people providing liquidity, with over $21.9 million worth of volume in this week. On DEXs, you're always going to have a swap function where you can swap one token for another. So in this situation, for example, I might want to swap my base on ETH, and I might want to swap that over to USDC. And in this situation, I can say, hey, I want to swap over 1 ETH into USDC, and then it's going to give me the best price to do so. So as you can see here, if I try swapping 0.1 Ethereum, which is around $350, I'm pretty much going to get the same exact amount. Now, one thing you have to note is the amount of price impact is based on the amount of liquidity in the pool. So if I did something like 100 Ethereum, which is $350,000, I'm going to have a much larger fee. And in this situation, it's 0.41%. And that means there is a ton of liquidity in this pool. Another thing that you have to note is a thing called slippage. It'll automatically be sent on auto on a lot of these different sites. And a lot of times it'll be under 0.5%. But whenever you're making a buy and you notice that the price impact is going to be, let's say, 3 or 4% because of how large your buy is, you're either going to want to buy on a centralized exchange, or you're going to want to see if there's a lot more liquidity somewhere else or use some other platform. But in this situation where you really just are having a lot of price impact, you're going to have to increase your slippage. So in this situation, I'm saying, hey, I'm willing to spend 10% more than the price that I'm currently seeing here. So if the price of this token is going on a massive run and I think I'm going to miss out on this token, I might want to increase my slippage just so I know that that transaction will go through. And at the same time, if I'm having a lot of price impact myself from how big my buy order or sell order is, I'm going to want to increase this slippage as well. So in a situation where if I was having a 5% price impact on this pool because of how big the buy or sell was going to be, then I need to make sure my slippage is at least 5%, or this transaction is just not going to go through. The swaps are pretty straightforward, where you can just swap in between tokens, and they also have different limit orders when it comes to Uniswap as well, which is super nice. The next thing that I wanted to show here that you can see on every decentralized exchange is their actual farms or their liquidity pools. Now, Uniswap looks a little complicated, so I actually wanted to show Dojo Swap, which is over on the injective chain. When you scroll down on the farms, you're going to be able to see all the different pairs of liquidity for this actual Dojo Swap DEX. So for example, they have the D injective as well as injective LP. They have the Dojo in injective LP. They have TIA in injective LP. And underneath all of these, you're going to be able to see the TVL, which is the total amount of liquidity that is locked. So total value locked within this pool. And you're also going to be able to see the APR, or the yield you're going to get for providing liquidity to this pair. So I can click on this little APR thing here, and I can see that 9.34% of the APR is coming from the farm, which is the Dojo Dojo token emissions. This is the DEX token that they're giving out to incentivize things. They're also giving another 5.42%, which is because of all of the volume. This is the actual trading fee that's getting split between liquidity pool providers. And then for this specific situation, there's also another 16%, and this is because it's a liquid staking token. To show another example here, we have the Dojo and Injective LP, and this is saying that 114.86% is from Dojo emissions, and then about 12.35% is the LP fee from all of the different trades and volume happening. In order to provide LP, a lot of times you hit provide LP, and once again, you're going to need the same amount of dollars for each token. So in this situation, if I want to provide one injective of LP, it is all of a sudden going to do the same amount of Dojo, which is $30.34, or around the same US dollar value. So just be aware, if I said, hey, I want 10 injective or $303, I'm going to need $303 worth of Dojo, and then I'll be able to hit provide and combine that into one LP token. Once you have that LP token, a lot of times you actually have to go to the farm and you have to hit the plus button on the liquidity pool that you now have that liquidity pair token in. You'll hit something like plus, you deposit the amount of LP you have, and now you'll start to be able to earn a yield. And a lot of times there'll be some sort of harvest button for you to be able to claim your rewards. The moment that you want to withdraw your LP and get your 2 tokens back is when you have to hit this minus sign. You withdraw that LP token, but you still have an LP token. You don't have Dojo or Injective yet. And that's when you have to go back to the swap. You have to hit withdraw LP. And this is where you would select the Dojo and Injective pair. You would say, hey, this is all the Dojo and Injective I have. And then it'll give me 50% USD value worth of Dojo and 50% USD value of Injective. A lot of times these different DEXs also have a thing called pools, or they'll have something like staking, and they'll try to incentivize you holding their DEX token, which, like I said, usually goes down and doesn't perform well over time because of all these emissions. And a lot of times they'll try to lure you in to stake it and get an additional APR. And sometimes you'll have to actually lock these tokens up in the process. That's pretty much everything you guys need to know about how to actually operate on a DEX. It might seem a little complicated at first, but once you start doing a couple of these swaps, realize that it needs to be on the same chain and do a couple of transactions, you'll start to feel a lot more comfortable. The only tip that I want to give here is do this with a low amount of money your very first time, just a couple of dollars. And then that way, if you make some sort of mistake, it's very easily repairable. And then once you understand what you're doing, that's when you can do a larger amount. And I hope this video helped, and I'll catch you on the next one.